Hey there. I got to get into this. I just can't help it. It's just, it's in me, and I just got to go for it. So what is the command? What is God's command toward us? It is the command. God has one command. God has one command right now, that you hear what he speaks, which is Christ. He is speaking Jesus Christ. And primarily what he is speaking is the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ for me, for you, for the entire world. And to hear and believe it is, that's it. That's it. It's salvation. It is walking with him. It is reward. It's everything. It's everything is to hear what God says about Christ. The testimony of God regarding his son. This is everything. It's the entire Christian life. To hear what God says about his son and to believe it. And it is the power. It is the word in power. It is the gospel. God speaks a message every single day, and I love it. My favorite thing in the world is when I wake up and the first thing I think about is the gospel. It is the best way to wake up, and it's the only way that I wake up without condemnation. Otherwise, I find myself looking for something to do. And God doesn't need me to do squat except to hear him in his son and believe it. And this is what cuts away all the chaff. This is where the gospel makes a dividing line. It's going to draw a line in the sand whether or not you're going to hear, because either you're going to turn to yourself to do something, or you're going to hear the word of God concerning his son, which says, it's finished, it's done, you have been reconciled to God, and you can walk with him. And you're walking with him as you're continuing to hear what he says in Christ. That I have been reconciled to God, I have an inheritance, I've been washed in the blood, I have been regenerated, all based on one thing, God's mercy, and I believed it. He filled me with the Spirit, and now he speaks to me, and the Spirit has a comforting ministry to me to speak to me Christ every day. And what he also tells me, this is the continuing, and when we continue to listen and we continue to grow in what God is speaking, he is going to speak more to us based on the life of Jesus Christ in me. This is the mystery of godliness, that he was manifested in the flesh. God was manifested in the flesh. It's the mystery of godliness. And this is Christ in you, the hope of glory. When we hear that Jesus Christ is living in me, this is going further in my walk. And this is what marks the Laodicean churches. They're completely void of this reality. They think, yes, Jesus saved me, but now everybody's turning against, accepting Jesus into your heart. I'm trying not to get furious, angry, and shouting. But everybody's got a problem with accepting Jesus into your heart. It's a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds get it. 5-year-old children get it. Jesus lives in my heart. And this is the hope of glory. Anything else is vainglory. It's vainglory to say that I've done anything. Jesus is working in me. And I'm a mess. I'm a total mess. Constantly. And you know what? I do judge my own actions. And I think about, is what I'm doing a benefit? And even Paul had this concept. He talks about, everything for me is lawful, but not everything is beneficial. I can do whatever I want. I'm good. But not everything is beneficial for everybody's sake. So some things I just have to kind of step away and let it go. And if you want to know, that's actually that's why I had to take the video down, the Inspector Rick videos down, because right now there's something more beneficial than that. And although it's fun, right now there is such a turning point going on where we're seeing things come to light. Jesus is speaking more on the Christian life right now, which is not me living the Christian life. It's him living in me. And this is what needs to be made distinct. It's not me. It's him in me. And you know what? Sometimes I do, I make decisions. And sometimes it's, I have to change. I have to make a change. I have to make a change. But you know what? I still have to judge myself based on Jesus as my righteousness, moment by moment. Grace every step. With the Laodicean church, it says that Jesus is knocking. And if any man would answer, he would come in and sup with them. Him and the Father. It's a call to intimacy, knowing that he is working in you. It's the indwelling Christ. It's his Spirit living in you. And this is the age that we live in, where this truth is just completely lost. It's gone in the wind. There's no idea, because it's all about obedience, but it's not obedience of faith. The obedience is the obedience of faith. Jesus Christ wants you to obey him by hearing his word and believing it. This is what Hebrews talks about. We're not talking about carnal commandments. We're not talking about any commandment. To love is to be loved by him. And how do we receive God's love? It is by faith in what Jesus has done. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but will have everlasting life. If you hear that and you believe it, you are obeying God. Now continue to hear him and obey, which is him speaking truth to you by the Spirit about Christ coming from the Father. God wants you to hear him. And he says, if you've trusted in my Son's blood, moment by moment, I am giving you life. Now, he does discipline us because we turn to ourselves for life. We turn to ourselves to be correct. And sometimes there are corrections that we need to make. We need to do things. We need to, you know what? I said something, I gotta fix it. You know what? I did something, maybe it wasn't the most beneficial thing. I need to make an adjustment. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't find my identity in that. I find my identity in the words of God, saying, Jesus has brought you can come near based on the blood. You can come near to God. You can enjoy fellowship even in this moment where you don't know if you made the right decision. You can enjoy my presence and know that I am leading you. And just continue to walk in faith. Faith in what? Is it faith that every decision I make needs to be right? No, it's not. It's faith that I have been made righteous in Jesus Christ. It's faith in what he has done. It's continually speaking of him. And the more I listen to that and forget what's behind and press forward to what is ahead, which is him, every moment, the more I get to enjoy the life and the freedom of drinking in who he is. I don't got, you know what, I want to get back, I want to go into, I don't know, this is where I'm at. This is just where I'm at, enjoying him. And It's completely foreign. It's completely foreign to modern Christianity, which tries to mingle grace and works. No, it's all of grace. It's all of grace. Moment by moment, it's all of grace. If you try to put me in a different obedience than the one that's described in Hebrews, which is hearing, if you hear his voice, see that you're not like the disobedient children. What was their disobedience? Unbelief. It was unbelief. And this belief is one, believing that I have been saved. Now, I talked about this in another video where I talked about, and I took it down, but I'm gonna go ahead and just recap. I'm gonna recap the same thing that I said. Israel, when they're in Egypt, they're in bondage. They're slaves to Egypt. The national type of salvation was the Passover. Now, the Passover was trusting in the blood. Trusting in the blood, the sacrifice for us. We will be spared because the blood has been applied. Then, baptism is they pass through the Red Sea with Moses, baptized into his death. That's where we are. We're baptized into the death of Christ, which means repentance from dead works. I am no longer trusting in my works. I have repented of thinking that I can be pleasing to God on any basis of anything that I'm doing at any given moment, ever, besides the fact that Jesus died for me. I have repented of dead works. There's nothing pleasing there. He is my righteousness. He is pleasing to God every moment, and He's in me. Listen, they entered into the wilderness, right? So the national type of salvation is completed. They say, not by works. No, we got saved when we trusted in the blood. We passed through the Red Sea. God's done it all. National type of salvation is complete. Next, they move into the wilderness, and they begin to murmur and complain. They begin to say, this is, we're thirsty, we're dry, we're miserable, we had better things in Egypt. And they begin to complain against the salvation. And Hebrews talked about neglecting. And this is the idea, is if we don't hear His voice, this is the obedience part. If we don't hear His voice, we begin to neglect the salvation that we already have. They had already been saved. They were saved. This is a national type. Understand, this is a national type. The people had been saved. And they began to murmur and complain against the salvation that they had already received. And this is what we see today. People are saying, well, yeah, you can't just say you believe. Well, guess what? This is what God's going to do. Because this is the type. God sent serpents to a nation that was already saved. And they were getting bit. And people were dying. People are out there dying, they're losing hope, they're dying. And Moses, God tells Moses, take a bronze serpent and lift it up, and anybody who looks at the bronze serpent will be saved. So, when people began to murmur and complain against the salvation, this is what I said, it's when you go to faith plus works, and you begin to complain against the faith that saved you at first, God is sending serpents your way. Get ready. Get ready. It's a moment by moment thing. And as we grow, we find that, hey, I'm not getting bit so many times. We grow in obedience to hearing His voice, which says, saved, saved, saved. The blood was enough. I brought you out. I'm doing things on your behalf and I am leading you, and we're going to the promised land. And we're going to enjoy the good land and the pasture. So God is sending serpents to Israel. Why? To break them down. To make them see that they are hopeless. They have nothing. To return them back to the original faith. That original faith that saved them. Now it's, in this case, it is they are looking at the bronze serpent lifted up. He's breaking them down to bring them back. Now we shouldn't expect to see anything different when we see people complaining against the salvation that they've received. Saying, oh, it's easy believism. Oh, it's just, you're just, saying, you could just sit and do whatever you want. Well, guess what? You can go ahead and murmur and complain all you want and continue in your unbelief, but it's wilderness wanderings. There's no quench for your thirst. And many died. Many died in the desert. Now, we shouldn't be surprised when we see people getting bit by serpents. When you neglect the salvation, when you begin to complain against the salvation, and you begin to stumble children and start making people seem like they're evil because I just accepted Jesus into my heart and I believe that he died for me. I asked him to come into my heart. You don't know what you're speaking against. You don't know what you're complaining and murmuring against. I agree that we need to grow in the knowledge, and that we shouldn't remain children just saying, I shouldn't be 20 years as a Christian. I shouldn't. Who knows? God has his timing. Whatever. But I shouldn't remain in just, I accepted Jesus into my heart. I should grow in the knowledge of my Savior. And praise God, he's faithful to do that. Now, he will bring us through a period of testing in the wilderness where we can get bit. I got bit. I was getting bit by snakes for quite a few years. But it was to restore me to the original faith, where I look up and I see Jesus on the cross and I say, that's enough for me. That's all I got. It's got to be just him. Now, as we continue to go forward, we see Joshua in the camp. We see Joshua, our Jesus. He's in the camp and he's leading. We're going ahead. We're going. Christ in me. That's it. That's what I need. I need Jesus in me. That is continuing to hear his voice. That, you know what? My obedience is Christ. I hear him. You can tell me about the flesh. You can tell me about the law all day. You know what? My obedience is Christ. And my sanctification, which is washing my mind, renewing me, is that Jesus is enough for me every day, at every moment. Every moment. Doesn't mean that I'm doing nothing. It actually means I'm going to do a whole lot more. Because it's not about me. I can finally take my hands off of everything, and you know what? Jesus is the one who's going to do it. And he's faithful. If you deny this, this is it. I mean, come on, give me a break. This is it. We hear him, and he is faithful, that his Spirit is working in us. Don't deny the work of the Holy Spirit. It's him working in me. It's Galatians gone crazy. That's all I got to say. I hope that you can follow this. I got super fired up. I was listening to Morris talk about Romans, and he just reading through Romans. It just set me on fire. You know what? All I can do is just parrot what God says about his son. I just want to speak what he speaks. And he says that Jesus is enough for me. At the cross, his blood is enough for me, for my sins. That's my past. My past is in the blood. And my daily right now is my daily right now, my flesh is on the cross. I've been crucified. And right now, the life that I live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God. It's all about faith. The obedience is just hearing. And don't make faith this crazy work where you have to do everything right in faith. It's not so much that you have to be so confident that everything... No, the faith is in the blood. It's the faith in him. It's the object of our faith is Jesus. It's not that I always get things right. I have to refocus, and he leads me into situations where my only answer can be him. He leads me into situations where my only answer can be him. And if I try and figure it out, I'm just doing hand-to-hand combat with the devil with no armor on. I can't figure it out. Not always. Sometimes I can make a judgment call and say this is more beneficial, but most of the time it's why not just turn to Jesus? Why not just have him be my answer? I can't go to war with every principality and power based on whether or not every decision, it's all got to be under the blood. I got to be walking in the blood constantly. I got to be just... He is doing it. The thing that changed everything for me, not everything, okay, something that was really good for me. One day, I was looking at my life and I was thinking, I am not sure how I can fix these problems that I've got. I've got strongholds that I can't deal with. I've got certain things in my life that I can't figure out how to make it go away. And you know what? I had to just say, Lord, I've got this mustard seed. I've got this tiny little mustard seed that says, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you said you can do it in me. You will be the answer. And I'm just going to stop trying to figure it out. I'm going to stop trying to figure it out. I give up on trying to walk correctly. And you know what? A mustard seed was enough. And now I'm just growing in that mustard seed. Where I'm just listening to, you know what? He's going to do it. He's going to do it. And my knowledge is growing on what he's doing. And now I can say, you know what? The gospel is that mustard seed that has just bloomed in my heart. The more I hear. Faith comes by hearing. And hearing the word of God. And what is the word spoken to us? Christ is the word. And what is Christ speaking about? His death and resurrection. That it is finished. That he is life now to me, flowing out of the throne. He is life every moment. And he is my enjoyment, my fellowship. He's my basis for he's my measure of obedience. I don't have to measure myself. If I continue to look at the law, basically it's a claim to deity. I'm trying to be like the Most High. I'm trying to find a way to merit God's approval outside of Christ. My only claim to God is His Word, Jesus Christ, His Son, my righteousness. He is my righteousness. And He is the one who is washing me. He is the one who is He earns my reward. I don't got to put my hand on nothing. And you know what? The more that I just go ahead and just let go of that, the more He is working in me. And you know what? Many people are going to be offended. So many people are going to be offended. They ain't going to like it. They ain't going to like the reward system of heaven. It's upside down. The last will be first and the first will be last. Men will be just unhappy with God's method of reward. He is looking at, He's searching the heart. He's searching the heart. You think that, well, why do we judge another man? To try and find out what kind of reward. He's the one who's judging the heart. And you know what? Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you're not speaking Christ, I wonder what your treasure is. But again, the day will reveal everything. But the gospel is the dividing line. The gospel. The gospel is my discernment. Jesus Christ is my armor. He is my hope of salvation. He is the sword. The gospel is my shoes of peace. The breastplate of righteousness. That's Jesus Christ. That's Jesus Christ. Okay. That's all I can do for now. God bless you. God bless you. He's everything. He's everything. In Him we live and move and have our being. It's all Him.